What is happening, everybody? Welcome to a special episode of the Sports Card CEO After Hours. Boys, we are doing a special recording this week. It is late night. This is kind of the cocktail hour of the Sports Card CEO. We're just bantering around the computer screens.
Something like that, yeah. Cocktail hour, happy hour, late night hour, whatever you want to call it, yeah. But we got cocktails in hand.
The CEO After Dark. So we actually are running live on our Instagram page. We're also recording for the podcast. So for those that are watching live on the Instagram page, let us know if you have any questions. We can answer those live. We just thought this would be fun to do. Listen, let's get some claps. Let's get some applause. The CEOs just reached 1,000 followers on Instagram.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Big milestone.
Woo.
Woo. No pics.
With that 1,000 followers, Matt, what are we doing next? What are we giving away here?
Yes. So to celebrate our listeners and this community of the Sports Card CEO, we are giving away the number one prospect in baseball, a Connor Griffin refractor auto PSA 10, courtesy of the Bowman Farmer, right?
Yes, sir.
Super generous of you, Gary. We're doing a giveaway on the pod. So, guys, make sure you follow the Instagram page and look out for that post. We're going to do a separate post so you guys can get in on this giveaway here. Number one prospect in baseball. What's a Connor Griffin refractor PSA 10 doing right now?
About $1 million.
$1 million.
$1 million.
So we have our first question on the pod this evening, boys, and it's this. Why does Kern upcharge me on cards he sells me?
Who asked this question?
Boy, Valor.
Well, Valor, because it's you, because you're extremely rich, and because I feel like I can get away with it.
Valor, while we've got him on, does he want a Jack Caglione printing plate?
Yeah, Valor. So thanks for tuning in, buddy. We have a Jack Caglione, one of one printing plate that Bubba has for you. It's got your name on it, he said. Valor said it's a me thing. Yeah, that's fine. All right, so Corey, 1014, asked, Bubba, would you swap out the Griffin for the Mayor Super?
Yeah, very close, yes. Very close in value right now.
Yes, so thank you guys for jumping on. Hey, listen, share this out on Instagram. Share this out to your stories. Ask any questions. So tonight, guys, doing this kind of special episode here, we wanted to just have the friendly conversation. Since it is kind of Sports Car CEO After Dark, we wanted to talk about, some aspects of the hobby that are the dark side of the hobby. Want to just mention some things as an educational piece from experience, talk a little bit about that. Bubba, I know you're kind of fresh in the middle of this. So again, I'll let you guys kind of kick that off. This is a different episode. We're not doing our weekly updates or whatever. We just wanted to kind of engage the community, kind of a late night sit down chat. So let's go ahead and jump in.
First up, I think we'll start off with this. We'll start off with, I vividly remember when I got deep back into the space about 3 years ago, when cracking cards was considered a no-no. When it was considered, you don't talk about it. It's kind of hush-hush. I remember the first time somebody was telling me about it, and I was like, oh, wow, you actually do that? And then all of a sudden, it was like, oh, yeah, you do that. And I was like, oh, I don't know. I was like, I don't know if I want to get into that. So anyway, I did, and I got into cracking cards, and now here it is, almost 3 years later, it's everywhere, right? I mean, I think everybody's cracking cards. I think even now, if I'm not mistaken, ESA's gotten into card prep services now, even for their own grading. I think I saw that pop out a couple months ago where they're prepping cards. And so I'm just curious, when did people really start hearing about that? And why do they think it went from this hush-hush kind of don't talk about it topic to now it's just widely, openly accepted? And I'm just curious in the hobby, how many other things we've seen in the last 3 to 5 years that kind of follow that same trend. I've got a lot of other topics on that front, but just curious on the card cracking itself, why people think that's all of a sudden just become widely accepted.
I mean, I think that a few things really, but we all know grading is extremely subjective. Like, it can depend on who the grader is. Did they have a good day? Did they have a bad day? It could depend on a lot of things. It's extremely subjective. It's not like, they're using AI tools, the same AI tool to just grade your card, right? As it's gotten harder to make money in the hobby, I think that was a tool that people used to, there's people that make a living off of doing that and just buying 8s and 9s and trying to get them upgraded, and they'll continue to crack and resubmit because it's subjective, and maybe they'll get a different grader, maybe they'll get the grader the same happens to be in a good mood that day, and you can 2x 3x your money. So I think people use it as a way to make money. Well, I mean, we all know the multiples here, and grading is subjective. Like, those are the two reasons I believe that people are doing that. I think
Well,
it's
my question though is really not why are people doing it. I know obviously why they want to do it. The question is really why did it go from being considered hush hush, it's almost like below bar type in the hobby, to now widely acceptable. And that's the question. I mean, I'm curious from our listeners too, like why do they think that's happened? Because everybody started to do it, that became acceptable.
So we've got listeners feed. We got guys
yeah.
on
Go ahead,
chat that are jumping in here. I just want to keep you guys abreast of that because y'all
please.
can hear. So we've got a couple of thoughts here from a couple of guys. So one of the comments was, listen, if you're cracking a card to sell it raw, like that's kind of misleading.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
If you're cracking a card and you know it's graded and you're cracking it to sell it raw, and let's say it got a 7 or an 8 or even a 9, and there's no disclosure there, like that's a problem. Like you're selling it, you know what I mean, under the guise that it's raw, never been graded. Again, if you cracked it and said, hey, we popped this out, it was a 9 or whatever, we just don't want to send it back right now. If you disclose that, that's kind of above board. That seems to be the kind of feedback that the chat is saying. A lot of times guys are saying though, like, to your point, Kern, if it's subjective, right? If the hobby is subjective, then if you're cracking it out to resubmit it and you're taking the risk,
Yep.
this is not a problem.
Yeah. I never thought of it, Bubba, to be a problem hush hush about buying a 9 and resubmitting it, or getting a 9 graded yourself and then cracking it and resubmitting it. What I think is unethical that happens all the time is getting an 8, getting a 7, and cracking it and selling it raw, because raw prices are doing the same as 9s.
Well, and I think that goes into a whole nother topic we've all talked about. How long is it going to take now before a PSA 9, with the incredible grading costs that we have now and the lack of quality control that we've seen, before 9s are no longer valued? A raw is not valued as a PSA 9, because the reality is, we all know when you get a PSA 9, it is not a 50-50 shot anymore. I mean, we see a lot more 8s than we've ever seen before. So to me, I just, and that's really, I think, what the question and what the topic is for me. Who is determining in this hobby what is the guidelines and rules? Because one person can say, oh, it's unethical to post a raw 9. But the same guy that's graded it 10 times and got the lucky grader and knew it had a huge dent in the back and got a PSA 10 is walking all the way to the bank making that money on the 10. So
Yeah.
who's making the rules there?
Yeah, to your point, there's a variety of rules. Like, to some guys, they feel like it's kosher to do this, and to other guys, they feel like it's not kosher to do this. There's no standard here, right? Like, there's not a hobby standard. And again, to your point, a couple years ago, the hobby standard was you don't crack cards. But we just had another listener comment here that Jeff Wilson, who's likely one of the most influential figures in the hobby space as far as following and video views and all this kind of stuff, he just did a live video of cracking cards and sending it to 3 different companies and what came back, right? So like, what was frowned upon 2 years ago is now content that's getting hundreds of thousands of views or whatever it is, right? And so like, who does set the rules? That's a great question.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think as we kind of look at that and we think about, I guess that brings me to the next topic.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ben.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, there really are no rules, and that's the thing about the hobby. It's completely unregulated. You know what I mean?
Rule number 1 of Fight Club.
There are no rules.
There are no rules.
Yeah, it's just it's unspoken rules, kind of like golf, etiquette. But most people don't give a shit.
So I want to pause off this comment. We had G Cord 06 just jumped in. He said, "Hey boys, I just started listening to the podcast 2 days ago. Episode 4 in. Love the content for a person that's new to the hobby. Less than 2 months ago. Keep it up, you guys. G Cord, we appreciate you, man, and listeners like you. That's why we're doing this. All right. So back to the thing. It's like golf, right? Some guys like the hand wedge. Some guys like the fairway roll. Some guys like to play it as it lies. So where's the conclusion here, boys? So we are the Sports Card CEO. Where is the conclusion? Do we as guys in the hobby who've been doing this for a while, who have a lot of big cards and influence and a platform, what do we say if the sports card CEO was making up rules that we said, hey, between the three of us boys, what would the kosher rule be?
I think the kosher rule would be what Kern said earlier. I think number one, we would have grading companies that encapsulated this stuff in something that's a little more concrete than what we've got them in. Cards that are worth $100,000 in a 10-cent piece of plastic.
Yeah,
I think that'd be a good start.
yeah, there's absolutely no reason that a PSA 6 52 mantle should be in the same piece of plastic that a paper Jack Caglione is in. There's zero reason for it. It's unacceptable. Completely unacceptable.
So I agree with that. 1000% is the like if the card like here's the deal. If you're upcharging me $1,500 on a card because it's over $10,000, put it in a different piece of material.
That's what I'm saying. It's scam. What are you upcharging for? Insurance? I mean, it's insurance related? Okay, I get it, but like put it in a nicer like what is this?
So here's another.
If you're charging me $1,500 on that Jack Caglione paper card you're talking about as an upcharge, you better make that sucker a spinner, like a spinner chain, one of those little spinner chains. I want to be spinning that card at a show. I want to look really, really cool in the show. So for $1,500, don't give me a 10-cent piece of plastic. The next guy's going to rip right open with some vice grips and you'll get a PSA 10. If we're talking ground rules, let's start off there. Let's start off with some real grading material here that's going to keep these cards secure.
Well, let's be honest. PSA wants us to crack, right? Like, it's to their benefit. So
in their revenue.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of their business strategy.
So one of the questions that popped up here is like one of the things that's really interesting about this whole crack and cross thing is like, PSA does the upcharge, right? Whereas like BGS and others don't. You know what I mean? So like why would you put yourself at risk, you know what I'm saying, to have this crazy PSA upcharge, when you can send it to BGS and not get an upcharge and get a 9.5 gem? You know what I mean? Like a lot of the inconsistencies among the grading companies is what actually leads to people doing this, because there's no universal consistency. It allows for this variance in subjectivity to the grade of the card. So a lot of it has been created by the nature of the grading companies and their inconsistencies toward pricing, number one, hobby supply, number two, and number three is, of course, the subjective grading.
So my question to you guys is, let's say that it was on eBay or Golden or Fanatics. And let's say there was a software that was created and it showed you the history of that serial number, okay, or that specific card. Even if you could go through vintage and something somehow could track the life of this card, okay, and you knew, okay, I'm going to give you an example. You knew that this card was a PSA 8, but you could go buy it right now, PSA 10, and you want the card. All right, it's going for PSA 10 prices. Is it going to change your mind at all that you knew it was a PSA 8 in this day?
How's that going to happen? You talk about like a low numbered serial card?
No, even if you just go look yourself. So let's just go say you look up at the pop and you see that card was a PSA 8 2 weeks ago and it's a PSA 10 today. But you want that card and you know that card's worth $5,000.
But how would you know that is my question.
He's saying they should put that in place.
No, I'm saying if you go right now and you looked up a card, let's just say there's only 5 of them, it's a red, and you go look it up, it's a PSA 10, it's worth $5,000.
Yeah.
But you go to the pop report and see this new PSA 10 and see that 2 weeks ago it was in a BGS 8 slab. Okay? So you looked at the pop report.
Yeah, but you can't see the serial number on the pop report. That's the thing.
But if you go to PSA, you can pull the picture of the card up.
No, you have to have the cert number.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well, you could go to Card Ladder though, right, and see the same thing.
If it's sold publicly, yeah.
The point is, on a low pop card, if you once knew that it was in a BGS 9 slab and now it's in a PSA slab, does it affect the marketability of that card, knowing that it once?
No, my question is that marketability. We know that they're selling every day. We know it happens every day. My question is, does y'all's two mindsets change if you know that a guy had in a PSA 8 2 weeks ago and now it's a 10? Does it make you want to pay any less?
No.
In today's market?
No. It doesn't necessarily make me want to pay less, but it kind of like, you feel the I don't know, it feels a little bit, to me, it feels a little bit like I'm not getting the.
Yeah, I should say if that card sold publicly as an 8 once, right, and there's a public sale as an 8, and then it was cracked and resubmitted and it graded a 10 and was back on auction, I might second guess paying a strong. I have no logical reason, but I might if there's a public sale
Now
and
on
it's low serial number.
now on the flip side, if all of a sudden it was frowned upon, like it was several years ago when this first came out, and I vividly remember this. People have short memories. They have a tendency to have short memories. 3 years ago, when a cracked card would come out and somebody knew that it was recently cracked, it was like the card had AIDS. Nobody wanted it. Nobody wanted to touch it. Oh, it just got cracked. That thing was an 8.5 a week ago. It's a 9 now. My point is that we're in such a flipper world now where everybody's flipping cards and it's just become the new norm. That to me, what this whole episode about today, and we can do several new episodes about it, is that the norm continues to change in this industry. And that's, I mean, because I'm looking at myself from 3 or 4 years ago. What the norm was 4 years ago and where we're at today is incredibly different. And people can sit there and act like it's not, but it's very different. And it continues to change because all it takes is one person that's changing that market daily or weekly or monthly. And if you're not changing, you're losing money in this hobby. And that's the fact.
Well, to your point, and I want to just say to those that are watching us on Instagram, they're giving great feedback here. A lot of thoughts. I can't keep up with all of it. But these guys are commenting back and forth. Good chats going on here. So I'm glad we did this. It's stimulating a lot of conversation. The reality is, Bubba, what you're saying is that you're in a hobby that is always changing. And so you better be willing to adapt to it. And if you're not willing to adapt to it, you're going to get left behind because the hobby is moving and you got to be able to move with it, right? And so it's kind of one of those things where if 2 years ago it was frowned upon to crack, but now it's actually like fodder for content on thing, like you better figure that out because that's just part of the hobby now. That's an accepted part of the hobby. And if you're not adapting to that, this is one of the reasons why a buddy of ours, David, we talk about fresh label 9s. Fresh label 9s from PSA are better than probably many of the PSA 10s that were graded in earlier cert numbers because so much has changed. And so if you're not valuing cards higher, if you're willing to flip a fresh label PSA 9 for an old label PSA 9 comp, I feel like you're missing out. So you got to be smart and you got to adapt or you're going to get left behind. That's my 2 cents.
Well, again, I mean, if we're being honest and everybody can hopefully be honest about this, when they're sending in a card right now, they're all evaluating as well. What level am I sending it in at? Am I sending it at value bulk? Am I sending it super express? Am I sending it regular? Why are they evaluating that? Obviously, the cost of the grading, but they're also evaluating the grader. They're also evaluating where have they gotten the best grades. And there's nobody that's any different than that can say that they're not wanting to get the best grade when they send it in. And so to me, it just becomes this whole thing that to me it goes back to what you said to start, Kern. It's not efficient. The grading system that's currently there is broken. It's not efficient, and to me, it's a bubble in a sense. I don't think this can continue where people are selling the same card 15 times in a 12-month period. I don't think that it's sustainable.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do.
So again, to our listeners, right? Tonight we're addressing kind of issues, taboo issues, whatever in the hobby, the dark side of the hobby. What would you guys say is another area where you guys want to kind of focus or hit on? And silence from the crowd.
Yeah, we're talking about the grading still.
Yeah, we got tons of people that are commenting on the grading, and a lot of times what the comments are saying on the grading is like listen, PSA upcharges. We at some point in time as the hobby have to demand that that's not okay. It's not okay to charge us this much more on this value of a card with no increase in what you're actually getting back other than the fact that your card actually graded higher. That's one of the things that's really common.
Here's one of my biggest issues, staying on this topic of grading, right? One of my bigger issues is that when you submit a card to be looked at for crossover at PSA, we submitted a card for crossover at PSA, and it was a BGS 9.5 True Gem Plus. It had 2 10 subgrades and 2 9.5s, right? We paid $400 at the National on site to have it looked at. Didn't cross. I was supposed to get grader notes. I didn't get grader notes. Still charged $400. What a scam, dude. What a scam. I feel like you got to be charged like half the fee or something if it doesn't cross. Like I'd pay the same amount if you put it in your 5-cent plastic or whatever you want to call it, $5 plastic, $20 plastic piece to cross it. But like, what am I paying for? I should be paying for at most half of that cost of for your grader to take a 30-second look at it and decide. But like if I'm paying the same price of $400 when it does cross, I get it. Yeah, number one, I'm happy, but number two, like I'm paying for cracking it and the insurance of if something goes wrong. I'm paying for the actual slab. I'm paying for the time, the labor, and the cost of labeling. But when it doesn't cross, why the hell am I paying the same price?
Great
That's a
point.
scam.
Great point. Great point.
So Valor just asked a really good question. He said, why, he said, serious question, why do we hold PSA at a higher standard than BGS? And I want you guys to answer that for me, and I'll give you kind of my answer as well. What's y'all's thoughts on that?
There's one reason. The only reason why is because the hobby pays more for a PSA 10 than a BGS 95.
Right.
That's the only reason why.
Why do they pay more? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know. I've just
Subjectivity.
Well, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I think that happened. BGS they had the hobby by the balls for a long time. BGS was the it, right? And BGS squandered it. And PSA took advantage of it. And they came in with something different. They actually years ago, I remember 4 or 5 years ago, PSA had customer service. PSA was a place you would go. And if you couldn't get the love at BGS, you could get it at PSA. And now that's totally flipped. Now you don't get service at BGS or PSA. And to me, PSA has gotten to this point that people are so locked into what you said, Matt. And that is, I think, the whole point of this whole episode today is that everybody in the hobby's gotten this tunnel vision of how do I make money? How do I make money? How do I make money on the next card? And they're forgetting everything else. And PSA is sitting there cashing the checks every single day. When people are paying these huge upcharges for PSA 9s and PSA 8s, it's absolutely sickening to me. And the sad truth is, if BGS had been smart at all, if they had come to the hobby and said, guys, we know we messed up, we're going to be at these shows, we're going to shake your hands, we're going to get back to customer service. We're going to get back to communicating with our customers. We're going to get back to if our grades are messed up, we're going to make it right. I guarantee you BGS could gain market share and gain a lot of it back. I don't have anything to do with the grading standards because PSA is just as inconsistent as BGS. It 100% goes back to the financial side that you talked about, Ham, and it goes back to the fact that BGS has forgot their customers years ago, and people didn't forget it. They got angry about it, and now PSA is doing the same thing. So it's a prime time for some grading company to step up. And the newsflash is SGC was starting to do it, and PSA picked up on it, and they bought them out.
Well, I will say this too. Is like, so one of the things that I did hear is that, basically the service level and everything at SGC has just completely fallen off the charts. And it's interesting to think, like, will the hobby still have any recognition of an SGC slab if SGC officially gets converted into just a PSA asset? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, would there ever be a situation if FGC has basically gone underwater, will PSA honor the SGC grades and cross those cards over to keep the credibility in the hobby if you have a situation where SGC becomes irrelevant?
I mean, PSA came in immediately. First thing they did with SGC was go in and change grading, just lock down the grading, essentially, that if you were using SGC, they basically couldn't think on their own. You were going to get the grade you were going to get from PSA. I mean, clearly they changed the grading scale very quickly from there. And basically, I don't think they really cared. I don't think they really cared if those SGC customers weren't happy about it, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but I think that they just wanted to make sure that market share wasn't going somewhere else. They didn't want to allow a third competitor to come in and take any more market share. And hey, a smart business decision on PSA side. It's prime for the taking, in my opinion, that the collectors in the hobby come together and we really think on what we want for grading. There could be so many ways, so many improvements to grading. Like we talked about earlier, levels of encasement, encapsulation, customer service. I mean, education on what you're going to get before you grade. I mean, so many things that they could do, and I hope somebody does it. I really do.
Yeah, I think, kind of switching gears a tiny bit here, but it just kind of got my mind thinking about like what's to come. And a lot of my mind went back to AI grading, right? Like, I don't think PSA is ever going to like fully transform to AI grading. I think that their graders are their bread and butter, right? But like, I think they'll use it in some fashion if they're not already, right? But to me, from like as a buyer on the secondary market, buying on eBay, to me, one of the biggest risks is buying raw cards on eBay, right? I mean, how many times have you gotten a raw card and it's got a crease in the back, but it passes authenticity, right? Or it has a dent, or it has bang corner. Everything flies by eBay authenticity. Occasionally, they'll find something. They've saved me, but how can we make that more secure? To me, the solution is eventually eBay working with an AI grading company and having that AI grading company, in order to post that raw card, having an AI grading company, you have to put it in like a digital slab, right? And it's digitally slabbed. And if you don't have it digitally slabbed and listed, then we can automatically assume it's probably shit, right? Because they don't want it like that for a reason. And so while it's not going to be the grade at PSA or BGS or whatever, but it gives it an idea of the condition instead of just listing it as excellent or near mint. You have to have this digital slab in order to upload that you use this AI platform. And in order to list it, not in order to list it, but you can have the option to list it with that digital slab of what the grade would be. So it's transparency. And if it doesn't have that, you could probably assume that it's crap condition.
So there is a deal right now where you can buy a raw card on eBay, send it to PSA for grading, and if it does not grade out a certain grade, then you're actually entitled to a refund on that card.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. The problem is that in what we're doing with Bowman, everything is time sensitive. I don't
Sure.
want to. I don't want to wait, and it's great that they've come up with that, right? But like, I don't want to wait to get the card, to have it go through authenticity, and then to grade it, and then to like deal with that crap on the back end, right? Like, I want to know up front, is this card an 8? I mean, like, yeah, it's probably not to eBay's advantage to do that because there's going to be less sales, right? But I feel like for the mass market high volume stuff, it should have like there needs to be more security for buyers.
Yeah, again, we have a commenter here. JT Fresh has been adding a lot. He said 3 to 4 months turnaround is way too long on Bowman product. Like, do you know how much can change in a Bowman market between 3 to 4 months?
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's so the liquidity of these cards is so quick that to have a
Thank you,
card,
GameStop.
yeah, to have a card that's stuck in grading for 3 or 4 months, I mean, that card could literally change 50% in value.
Yeah, I mean, they're essentially forcing your hand to pay for a higher service level, right? And I think since GameStop, once GameStop's started doing PSA submissions, I think that's when the value bulk submissions got really backed up. Like, they weren't looking at packages for like 3-4 months before they even got it into research and ID. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but I think it was legitimately like 2 months before it got into research and ID because of all the submissions from GameStop.
Oh, you look back at the genesis of all of this, and it's the pandemic when everybody's at home, and the grading orders just completely mushroomed. And I mean, what the cards and like the bulk orders that were taking like a year every time at PSA, So I mean, I had a buddy tell us it used to be you grade a card for 8, 10, 12 bucks, whatever it was. And then when the hobby completely exploded, they couldn't keep up with the demand. They're a year behind on these bulk orders. And so I think a lot of the pricing structure and all this kind of stuff is just a function of the blow up of the hobby from 2020 to 2021 and them trying to somehow manage the volume of cards that they were dealing with. I don't think it's right, but I'm just saying I think that all led to where we are today.
I got a question. I got a question for some listeners. What's the thought of if you buy a card that you own? Let's say you own a lot of a certain player, okay, and I don't know. You can choose your favorite player at the moment, and you see a card there, and you go and you buy it now. Okay, card is $3,500. Last comp is $2,500, and there's not any other inventory really out there at that player. You buy said card at $3,500 frankly, because you want it, but number two, because it's going to help your comp. And there's a lot. Is that obviously, would that be considered a no-no in the hobby? Is that who's considering that I mean, somebody purchased it. They actually purchased the card. They owned a lot of other versions of that card. How would that be construed in the hobby? Would that be construed as how is that? I'm just curious how our listeners would construe that, because it happens all the time. If somebody owns a large market share of it, you can see these comps fly out. I saw it at the National, and we talked about it last episode, where for the first time, I saw people not building comps all the way up to the National. I saw at the National people creating fake comps on cards to buy the card low because they wanted to buy it. So it could be a Jaden Daniels card, for example. Last comp could have been $3,000. I saw people doing just dumbass stuff. They'll put $400 comps out there on cards. And and we're creating these comps. And so my question is, where is that line? You got people that are legitimately buying because they want the card, but yes, it helps their comps. Then you got people doing this and they're creating negative comps on the downside. And there's this big vicious cycle that's happening on a regular basis. My first question is, what is right and wrong all the way between that? And then number two is, how does it ever stop? Where does this ever stop? Is it sustainable? Because we're on this hamster wheel of, it's great that we have card ladder. It's great that we can know what the last card went for. But when do we really know what we're really buying? And so I'm curious, you guys' thoughts on that, Matt and Kern, and I'm curious of our listeners' thoughts there.
I'm glad to jump in. And we have a ton of thoughts here on the live stream. Guys, just let me know if you want to keep the live stream rolling or not. I'm just trying to keep up with this as we're kind of having the conversation. So here's the deal. Like, comparable sales, like, have the potential to bury the market. Because if everybody's only willing to pay 85% of last sale, or whatever the number is, there's no way to see appreciation, right? So the only thing that builds appreciation in the card hobby is for somebody to pay over the last comp. Like, that's bottom line. Like, you have to be willing to pay over comp. And I know you guys aren't big into Jordan stuff right now, but I promise you almost every single Jordan card that's flying right now in the 90s insert market is over its last comp. And the reason why is because that hobby is being driven by true collectors that are stashing away these cards in personal collections, and flippers are getting in because they want a piece of the action too, and it's flying off the shelf. Versus, the downtown market, the generic kaboom market, the football latest and greatest quarterback market. Everybody's just trying to play, pay 50, 85% or whatever. And Bowman can fall into that trap too. The niche part of Bowman is that people understand the true value in the low number parallels. And so the smart guys aren't willing to lowball themselves and sell it under comp.
Well, and that's what I've been saying for the last 2 months, screaming it from the mountaintops. That's why Bowman has been so strong this year, supply and demand. For the first time, Bowman collectors are not selling too early. They're not bailing on guys. And when they do bail on guys, that's when there is that buying opportunity. We've talked about it before, where guys get the call and a guy doesn't play good for 2 or 3 weeks, and then they dump all of his cards. Well, if you really believe in that player, that's your buying opportunity, because most of the time now in Bowman, what's happening on these prospects is people have done their research. They know what they're buying. They know, and it's supply and demand. I've said it all year. There's been the lowest amount of Bowman availability of true color I have seen in years, 5 years. And that's what's built the market. When there's very little availability, it means the price is going up. Because when you want to go to the store and go get that brand new TV you wanted for the big games about to come on, you go to Best Buy and you're ready to watch the game. You got the popcorn, you got the chips. Ice in there getting the hot dogs ready to watch the game. The damn TV's gone. Guess what? There's another one on the other wall, and it's $500 more. You're going to buy that son of a bitch. You're going to buy it because you want to watch the game. And that is 100% what happened in Bowman, is that people are now starting to understand what they have. Supply has been limited, and now that has increased our market, and it's a phenomenal thing for our space.
So again, I would just say this to our listeners that are on the IG live right now. There's great feedback here. the comments are awesome. Like these guys are just really having conversations back and forth. They're kind of feeding off of what we're saying or whatever. I think ultimately, boys, like one of the things that I feel compelled to say here is this hobby is built off of so much hype. It is built off of hype and it is built off of FOMO. And yet, underneath it, there is real value because a Shohei Ohtani read or a Judge read or a Harper read or name your iconic player, it's going to demand the high value. So there is some tangible thing where a guy goes, oh yeah, if this is the next guy, then the value is there. But again, everybody's just rolling their dice or throwing their thing on the roulette table until it gets to that point.
Yeah.
And that's where you just have to understand the game that you're playing.
It's a game of musical chairs, right? And like buy in, you buy out, you buy in, you sell, you buy in again, you sell. And it's like, what are you going to end up with? Like, who's going to end up with what? And when is that going to be? Like, Gary and I were talking last night, like, we're talking about like some of these cards we're going to sell. One of these cards that each of us is selling at this point throughout this year, we're going to regret selling. Like we're selling some big cards, right? Like one of them, like I'm like, is one of them going to be the next like Trout? You know, like are we selling a future $1,000 red? You know, like I don't know. We'll find out. But that's the fun of it for me. You know.
I think that the if you play the law of averages and the law of numbers says there might be one guy out of this class that's the guy, but yet there's 40 guys that are getting traded pretty heavily. So again, there's the guy who says, you know what, I'm going to buy the red and I'm going to sit on it for 5 years, and he gets paid. I'll never forget when we first started in the card hobby, a buddy of ours was into pitcher autos, and we're looking through his case, and there's a bunch of Wander in there and Adley in there, and this is back in like 2022. And I look at this card, and I hold it up to Matthew, and I go, who the heck is Tariq Skubal? I never heard him before.
There you go.
And I'm like, why would a guy have an auto of Tariq Skubal? Who cares? This isn't nobody. You know what I mean? And the card was selling for whatever it's selling for. And we sold them all.
That's why Bowman is awesome, man.
We sold them all. And by the same counterpoint, these were chrome refractor PSA 10s, base chrome refractors PSA 10s. We're doing $200. And we sold them all. And now they're probably doing 30, 40, 50, I don't know, whatever they're doing. And so like, it's just, if you don't educate yourself on this stuff, and if you're not up on it, and you're not up on what the hobby is doing and how everything's moving, this is why guys get burned in this, and they just go stick to flipping downtowns and football cards.
Well, the reality is this. We call this show the Sports Card CEO for a reason. And I can tell you that in the last 20 years of running a business, it doesn't matter, and I've had to learn the card business the last 4 years. It's no different than any other business. It's what you put into it. It 100% is what you put into it. If you want to win, you got to have that competitive drive to want to win. You've got to be able to research. You got to be up late night looking at what cards are available. You got to be scouring the web like little Matt over there does. I mean, you've got to be grinding to win at this game because there's so many other people that are in this game that are wanting to do the same thing you're wanting to do. They want to know who the next guy is.
Or if you're Gary, you could just be a freaking genius and have Lil Mout scour the web and Kern just do the prospecting and just he's got it all set up.
Kern's doing the prospecting. Oh my god! Now the show's gonna get heated.
You got it all set up, man.
Who liked Connor Griffin before the other? Let's talk about that.
I'll give you that one. I will.
Sebastian Walcott to the moon. Sebastian Walcott. I named my son Sebastian. I named him Sebastian.
Remember when I had to sell you on Luis Pena? You're like, I don't know, man. I'm like, Gary, the guy doesn't need to be a superstar, right? But his value's got to go up. Come on. We've both been there.
Luis has got a long way to go. I love you, Luis, but he's got a long way to go to be Connor Griffin.
Home run in his first high A at bat.
Yeah.
Luis Pena.
All I'm going to say is Spencer Jones. I've been telling you boys about him. When we get into the prospecting thing, that's when I get a little fired up, Kern. We can talk about buying, we can talk about research, but you talk about prospecting. I got some pride in my prospecting.
I know you do. I know you do.
I
You do wake up in those mornings that I talk to you on the way to the farm, and you're like, "There's a guy that I've been looking into. I don't know if you've heard of him. You're on it. You're on it."
Consuela Amigo.
And you were on Connor Griffin
He's
before me.
in the Dominican.
Yeah, exactly.
So hey, we have a couple of things here. This is so hilarious. One of our listeners just said, "I bet Gary has the Walcott Super, and he just hasn't sold Kern."
You know what's funny about that? I have the Connor Griffin Super, and I just haven't told anybody.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
That would be so funny.
Now, on a serious note, I do have the James Wood Super, and I've been holding it for the last 2.5 years. And I'm publicly going to make it available this evening. $500,000.
It is the James Wood Super from 2023 Bowman Chrome.
Yes, yes.
So boys, we're getting on our time list here. This has actually been super fun. It's been a good change of pace for us from our normal show. The fodder has been really good. This has been a lot of fun.
Maybe we should do a dark side every now and then.
We should. We need to do.
Boys, we barely dipped our toe in the dark side of the pool. We need a little. I need a little more motivation. I see our fans over here talking about they want more bourbon. We'll come in next time. We'll do spin the bottle, and we'll really get going here. But we need more content from y'all. How dark y'all want us to go? Because there's some shiz going on in this hobby that I don't like. The Bowman farmer doesn't like some of the shiz he's seeing. All right. So hey, well, how dark do we want to get?
The Bowman farmer says there's some genetically engineered beans going into this.
I don't like that.
Hey, I have a quick question, Matt, before you wrap up. Has Ryan Mully joined us in this live?
Mully did join us, and he's not in here. He's not talking his normal Mully trash. But I will say this to Mully. Y'all remember those cat headphones that Mully gave me?
Sure.
Sold them on eBay.
You sold them on eBay?
I sold them on eBay.
Holy
and I'm
crap.
getting ready to buy a new Sports Card CEO microphone with them.
Oh, my God. You flipped the gift.
Mully's cat headphones.
Wow.
He flipped the cat.
You flipped the cat headphones that Mully gifted you.
Hey, when you're dealing with Ham House Sports, baby, you just don't know what you're dealing with.
It's Ham House Sports, where every dollar matters.
Let me just make this public proclamation. eBay sucks. Let me just say that. I hate you, eBay. Let me just say that. For the last 3 years, every time I'm about to buy a big card on eBay, it's $15,000, $20,000. I get a message and it goes, from time to time, we limit buying for safety purposes. I'm like, I've bought $10 million on your site in the last 2 years. And you're limiting my purchases? I can't. I mean, if this night gets going, I mean, eBay, I hate you. Okay? But you will never stop me from buying cards because the Bowman farmer never stops farming. Okay?
That has to be clipped.
That's good. That's good.
That's the best content.
As he takes a swig, I love it.
I will continue to buy cards on.
I love buying and land, and I hate eBay.
I mean, I do. I hate the FeeBay. You know, I used to feel kind of bad for you, eBay, when all these people would pull people off their site and they would save from your fees. Now I relish in it. I really, really do.
This is fantastic. Guys, our feed right now is blowing up with people commenting. Somebody said they're trying to stop the Bubba monopoly.
No one can stop Bubba.
They are not successful.
Gary, you need a little monocle and you need a little Monopoly guy hat.
I hate them. I mean, it's the worst. If you're the CEO of eBay, by the way, I've already started hitting them up on LinkedIn. I've already found the CEOs, heads of collectibles, and all that for the company. You need to reach out to me. Your decisions are despicable. You should reach out to me because I'm very angry. I'm very, very angry. And for me as a client, for as much money as I've spent with you, and as much money as I've sold with you, you should reach out to me. And I'm not too hard to find. Bowman Farmer on Instagram. I'll probably be farming when you call, and I might work time to call you back. But I'm buying either way, baby. You will not stop the Bowman Farmer from buying.
Started to hit him up on LinkedIn. That was the best. I started to hit him up on LinkedIn. This is good.
No, Mully said, "Did the Mr. Kitty headphones need a charge?" And I said, "Mully, we flipped your headphones. I'm getting ready to buy myself a new microphone."
Thank you, Mully, for the new microphone for
Thank you
Matt.
for the new microphone. I love your jokes have turned new gear for the Ham House. Boys, this is hilarious. This has been so much fun. We're gonna wrap it up because I know where we can go. With little Matt goes, "No, boys, keep going."
Dinner time for me, man.
You would eat dinner at 10:30 at night.
Dude, I mean, I had a day, dude.
You
I
did
had
have
a
a day.
day.
You did have a
One
day.
last scary rant and then finish.
A bunch of grace. A bunch of grace. Eric, a little Matt. One
We
more
need to
here.
save some Gary for
Oh, we did.
the next dark side, which perhaps could be next week if
I got a final thought, eBay.
okay, bring it.
We all
baby.
got
Bring
final.
it.
We got final thoughts. When somebody tries to slow me down, whether it's business, whether it's sports, whether it's any, I'm a competitor. All right, and it almost creates another gear. And I was kind of sleepy. The national was fun. I was excited. I was kind of happy. But now you've made the pissed off Bowman Farmer. I'm changing my name to the pissed off Bowman Farmer tomorrow officially on Instagram because now you've woken a new side. It's not a dark side. It's just a whole freaking fired up side. I'm buying every red in existence, baby. Kern, you called it out last week. I'm on a mission now, eBay. You've done fired me up.
Oh, this is good.
You cannot stop the Bowman Farmer from farming.
I want all the reds.
I got the reds. The reds are mine.
Can we really quick on our feed here, if we've got some eBay hate that's in the chat here, can you just put one of those little hand emojis up real quick? Can I see how much fire or hands can fly up? If eBay has done you wrong at some point when it really made you upset, just show me a little bit of hate in the comments. Just a couple little hands. You can do a little hands up guy. Any kind of emoji here to know. Am I the only one that eBay frustrates? I want to know. If it's all crickets over here. If it's crickets, just put me a cricket up there. I just need to know.
Looking to our listeners to either put crickets or hands up in the chat if eBay.
A lot of fire. Look at all that fire over there.
Somebody's throwing fire at
Fees
you.
are too damn high.
They hate.
Yeah, hands up. Okay, there we go. eBay offers received from customer insulting, to be honest. Right.
Molly said eBay offers from podcast members are insulting.
Thank you. This show is sponsored by Rye Mully's Earmuffs donations. That bottle of bourbon paid for by Rye Mully's Earmuffs.
So, hey, we need to commit, boys, to having another Sports Card CEO after dark. I think that this is the after hours episodes are unique in and of themselves. So, guys, we have a big special guest next week, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Announce it.
MLB. Or do you want to announce it, Kern? We good with
Yeah,
that?
go for it. Yeah.
Boys and girls, we are going to have Rhett Lauder.
Dude is a baller.
Dude, from the Reds. He was a Wake Forest guy. Lauder is awesome. He's going to be joining us on the podcast next episode, so make sure you tune into that. Pumped to have Rhett on as he recovers back into the show. Any thoughts to add, Kern?
No, I appreciate everybody who joined on the live. Thank you
Yeah.
for participating.
Hey, to everybody who joined us on Instagram Live, we appreciate you guys. We appreciate the Sports Card CEO community. Hope you boys enjoyed this special Sports Card CEO After Dark episode. And we'll be back next week for more. Bubba, Kern, boys, appreciate you next week. Peace.
See ya.